My name is Paige Hollis, and I manage impossible medical crises for wealthy families in Chicago, which is why I noticed the folded note inside my birthday card first. Cole had written Happy 39, but the smaller slip tucked behind it read, "Don't let her touch your check tonight," and the words tightened everything under my ribs. I looked up from the cream envelope just as Danica Hollis came through the private dining room doors with 6 women who were not on my guest list. The room had river views, polished silver, and a cake beside my flowers, and Danica glanced at both like they had embarrassed her. "Move that little cake and take the flowers off the table," she went on, already dragging the center chair back. "My girls didn't come here for a cheap background." One woman laughed into her phone. Cole froze with his hand on my card envelope, and I stayed seated long enough to watch Danica claim my night right there. Then she locked eyes with me and dropped the part she had really come for. "Put your card down now, Paige, and don't make me ask twice." I folded the note once, slipped it into my sleeve, and rose knowing 2 things. Danica thought I would pay, and I already knew I would not. Ever since I married Cole, Danica had treated my steadiness like a household utility, and something permanent and silent she could lean on whenever her own life buckled again. 18 months earlier, she called sobbing that her car was about to be repossessed. And 2 days after Cole covered it, she posted rooftop cocktails in matching silk sets online. When I brought it up, Patricia gave me that polished little smile and murmured, "You're the stable one, Paige. Don't nickel and dime family when someone is drowning for air." Last winter, Danica borrowed $1,200 for what she called an urgent utility shutoff, then tagged herself at a lake resort by Saturday with a champagne flute in her hand, smiling. Cole stared at the photo, tired clear through his bones, and still reached for his wallet because every conversation about his sister ended the same way at our house anyway. Nobody called it stealing. Patricia called it a rough patch. Brent called it stress. And Danica called it temporary until the money disappeared into rent, wine, and nails. So when she breezed into my birthday dinner with Tessa Grant and 5 women angling for free seafood, I recognized the pattern before the menus opened that night. Danica was not celebrating me, and she was not improvising either. She had promised those women a private room, a view, and somebody else's money for the evening already. So I slipped the note deeper into my sleeve, looked at the 6 extra place settings, and understood exactly why someone had warned me before she sat down at my table. Danica did not even wait for water before lifting the menu like a prop and announcing, "We're doing the Grand Seafood Tower, 2 chilled platters, and vintage champagne." Tessa leaned across the linen, smiling into her phone, and asked whether my birthday dinners always came with a private sponsor, while 2 women laughed too hard. Cole told Danica to stop ordering for a table that was not hers, and she cut him off with, "Relax. Paige handles people for a living." Then she looked straight at me and added, "She works with rich patients all day, so one nice dinner won't kill her." And Tessa grinned like that line deserved applause. I watched the server hesitate with his pen above the pad, because Danica was ordering off-menu specials without once asking who had invited her there. Patricia sat at the far end with both hands around her glass, already wearing the face she saved for moments when she needed me quiet. Danica kept going. "Add the reserve bottle, too. And don't disappear on us when the check comes. Paige," because I told everyone tonight was handled. One of Tessa's friends asked whether the room came through Danica's connections, and Danica smiled toward the windows and answered, "Family connections are still connections." I felt the note against my wrist inside my sleeve, and after that answer, I knew exactly which part of the night had been planned. The cake was still on the table. My flowers were still there, and somehow neither one of them had anything to do with me anymore. Danica flipped her hair, waved at the server again, and landed the last insult clean with, "Let's not make this awkward just because it's your birthday." I picked up the folded card, pushed back my chair, and stood without rushing, because once she turned my dinner into a setup, I was done pretending not to see it. Patricia caught my wrist before I reached the host stand and pulled me into the hallway, where her smile vanished the second nobody else could see it. Her fingers tightened as she whispered, "Don't do this tonight, Paige. Your sister-in-law is spiraling, and family does not humiliate family in public." I looked back toward the dining room where Danica was still ordering champagne and asked why family only seemed sacred after she had spent it. Patricia lowered her voice even further and tried the older script. "Be the bigger person. Cover this one dinner, and we can all talk tomorrow." I kept still and gave her truth she had dodged for years. "You only say family when you need me swallowing your daughter's bill." Tears rushed into her eyes on cue, but the cue came too late. Because the seafood towers, chairs, and my birthday seat were real. She tried once more. "Paige, please, don't make the whole family pay for one bad night." And I finally understood how small she needed me. So I pulled my arm free and told her I was done buying access to tables where I was useful, funded, and never truly welcome. Then I turned toward the host stand, with her apology unfinished behind me, and left the word family in the hallway there. Adrian Cross met me at the host stand with the kind of calm that only comes from years of watching expensive evenings go sideways without warning. I handed him my folded card and kept my voice even. "My reservation moves downstairs to the private tasting room. My actual guests come with me, and nothing ordered at that table touches my account tonight." He glanced once toward Danica's champagne performance, then back at me, and answered in the same clean register. "Understood. Miss Hollis, I'll separate the checks and reassign the room immediately." By the time Cole reached us, Adrian was already signaling staff, and I did not waste words explaining what the seafood towers had already explained for me. Cole looked past my shoulder toward the dining room and asked, quietly now, "Are you really doing this?" And I gave him the only honest answer left. "I'm finally doing exactly this." Adrian added that the lower room was ready. The cake and flowers could be moved, and any new charges from Danica's party would require direct payment from her side only. So I gathered the 4 friends who had actually come to celebrate me, and together we left the noise upstairs without one backward plea. The private tasting room downstairs was smaller, warmer, and real. And when the cake was set back in front of me, nobody had to clear space for a performance. Cole took the chair beside mine instead of arguing for peace, and that choice mattered more than any apology waiting upstairs ever could. By the time dessert reached our downstairs table, Adrian had already run the upstairs check exactly where Danica had assumed it would never land. Her first card failed, then the second, and when the third one hit the tray, Brent finally leaned forward with that hollow look men get when the lie has outlived the room. Tessa set down her glass, stared at Danica like she had just discovered the set walls were fake, and asked, low and sharp, "You brought us here without money?" Danica laughed too fast and tried to throw my name across the floor again, but upstairs my name was no longer attached to anything she had touched. Brent asked Adrian for a minute. A call. Some way to clear it quietly. And Adrian gave him the clean options only, immediate payment, a valid transfer, or a signed liability form with identification attached. Tessa stood first, smoothing her coat with the kind of disgust reserved for social debt. And once she moved, the other 5 women found urgent reasons to leave behind them. When Danica finally spotted me near the stair landing, she threw out the last card she had left, which was not plastic but outrage. "Paige, stop this right now," came across the room hard enough to turn heads, and I walked only close enough to end it clean. Uninvited guests cover their own evenings. I told her, then left Brent with the form, Adrian with the check, and Danica with the exact table she had built for herself. The next morning, I was pouring coffee when my phone lit up with the backyard camera, and Danica was at my door with a flathead screwdriver. She had one hand on the frame, one shoulder driving forward, and all the dignity from the restaurant gone, replaced by the kind of panic that makes bad decisions feel practical. I had changed the locks after midnight, and when the alarm hit full volume, she jerked back once, then stayed, which told me she had come for money and not pride. I opened the intercom and kept my voice level enough to match the screen. "Are you breaking into my house to pay for last night?" Danica spun toward the camera, hair wild, face stripped raw, and started shouting that I owed her, that I had ruined everything, that opening the door would end this. She did not run when the siren kept going, did not hear reason in her own words. And by the time the patrol cars boxed in the curb, she was still pounding my back door. Chicago police walked the frame, saw the tool, the fresh damage, the active alarm, and the video feed still recording her in real time. Danica tried one last version of the family script from the patio, but family sounded thin in handcuffs, thinner still with a broken door frame behind it. Cole stood beside me, watching the officers lead her out, and after a long silence that finally matched the truth, he said, "This isn't a family misunderstanding anymore." And for once, neither of us softened it. Within 48 hours, Adrian turned over the liability form, failed payment records, and dining room footage, which meant Danica could not shrink the dinner into family confusion anymore. The restaurant wanted restitution. The state had a burglary file open, and the timing between both nights left her lawyer with no clean story to sell. Brent moved first, separating accounts, leaving the apartment, and sending Cole a short message that read, "I can explain my marriage later. Not fraud." Patricia called me on the third day with a voice I barely recognized and asked, "What do you want from us now?" "Paige." As if the bill had started here. I told her the truth she had dodged at the restaurant. I wanted nothing. I just would not stand under her daughter when the ceiling finally came down. After that, the calls changed shape. Because nobody asked me to be the bigger person once probation, restitution, and damaged property started showing up in paperwork. Danica took a plea that kept her out of jail, but it came with supervision, repayment, and a no-contact window she had never imagined applying to me. The small brand deals dried up. Tessa disappeared. And the women who once loved her private rooms stopped returning texts the minute invoices replaced filtered photographs. By the end of that month, the family had stopped orbiting Danica's moods. And for the first time, silence cost me nothing at all. Cole never asked me to fix his sister again. He sat beside me at dinner and let the quiet hold its ground. A few months later, I had 4 friends around my dining table. Real plates, warm food, and no one performing wealth badly enough to make the room feel rented. Cole poured wine, smiled like a man who had finally stopped negotiating with chaos. And the quiet in our home no longer sounded temporary to me. After dinner, Adrian stopped by with a bottle from the restaurant and admitted the note had come from him after he heard Danica asking whether my card was already attached. He remembered the way she said it. Too casually, like my money had walked in before I did, and he decided I deserved warning. I thanked him, folded that small slip again, and tucked it inside my father's old cookbook because some truths belong near the things that still feed you. I no longer needed a private room, a river view, or anyone's permission to belong somewhere, because peace had finally become the only table I kept. Thank you for staying with me through this story. Life gets lighter when you stop begging for a seat at tables that only value what you can carry. I hope you find real love, real peace, and a home where your presence matters more than your usefulness.